This conference will now be recorded.
Now, basic points before we start practicing SAP FICO. Certain basic points that we'll have to remember before we start practicing SAP FICO. Okay, so first point, your SAP login pad must have minimum 3 lines. Okay, 3 lines or 3 connections. When I say this, I mean this. Now on my SAP logon pad, do you find only one line or only one connection, or there are multiple?
Multiple connection.
There are multiple, right? When you're practicing, when you go to your SAP logon pad on your system, if you are finding only one, then that is the first mistake that you are doing. If you work in any project, if you work in any client, any organization, no organization will have a single line. Am I correct, those who are working?
Correct, sir.
So put minimum 3. Put any client, like here I put ABC development, ABC quality, ABC production. In the same way, you put any other client name, because let's say tomorrow you are working for a support project, you are working for 4 clients. Okay, you are supporting 4 clients. Each client will have 3 servers: development, quality, production. This everybody is aware.
Yes, sir.
Now 4 clients, if you are supporting 4 into 3, 12, you will be having 12 connection details on your SAP logon pad. Now if you are practicing all your practice duration with single line item, the moment you join your organization, first confusion that comes in your mind when you open this SAP logon pad. All these months when you practiced, you would have seen a single connection on your SAP logon, but once you are in a real environment, you will find multiple. Clear?
Correct, sir.
Now, whenever you are doing testing, whenever you are doing a configuration, whenever you are generating reports, think that okay, if I am in a project, which server I will be doing this activity, whether I do this in development, or I do it in quality, or I do it in production. If you are doing a configuration, where we will be doing
Development.
development. Now assume whenever you are doing any configuration, whenever you are doing any kind of activities, you are going to log into development. Click on development. The moment you log into development, it will ask you to enter user and password. It is the same way even when you are in a project. There is no change on the SAP application that you are using. SAP application that you will be using in a real environment. It is exactly the same, no change. Now here, what is your client number?
800.
Never tell this client number 800 to anybody in your interview, anybody in your official conversation. If you are talking about client 800 is only valid for training.
Training. Correct.
Right? Some people might ask you in your interview, what is the client number? Now, all these days when you practiced, you would have seen 800. If you tell 800, that 800 will tell you that you are an inexperienced candidate. Clear? This 3 digits 800 is your client number, will reveal that you are inexperienced candidate. Don't do that. Now, in which system I logged in? According to my example, I am planning to do configuration. I am opening development. In practice, whatever the thing that you open, it will show only 800. But according to your experiment, according to your thinking, you are on development system. For development, there are how many clients? 1, 2, 3.
Two clients.
In development, there will be 3 clients. Okay, one for functional configuration, 2 for technical coding, 3 for functional testing. Okay, we'll put development, quality, production. In development, you are going to have 100, 110, let's say 200, and 100 for functional config, 110 for technical coding, 200 for functional testing. Now, how many clients we have written functional name out of 3?
Two, sir.
What are those 2?
Functional configuration, functional
Configuration.
testing.
Functional configuration and functional testing.
Testing.
What are those 2 client numbers?
100 and 200.
100 and 200. Fix these 2 numbers in your mind. Okay, fix these 2 numbers in your mind right from the beginning, which means right from now, if you are configuring blindly, you have to tell to anybody you will configure in development 100. And where will you test? Development
110.
200.
200.
Development 200. 110 is used by ABAP consultant.
Okay.
Okay, 110 will be used by ABAP. 100 is used by FICO or any other module functional consultant. In short, as a FICO consultant, in development, you are going to work on 100 and 200. If your intention is to do configuration, you have to put this 100. You have to put this what? 100. And then put your user ID, password, login, do the configuration. Once your configuration is done, you are not supposed to maintain any transaction, any master records on the development 100. It's a pure configuration client. No transaction is allowed, no master records are allowed. Clear? After completing your configuration, you have to log out from development 100. Log out from development 100. Now you want to test if your configuration is working fine or not.
200.
To test if your configuration is working fine or not, come to SAP logon pad, again open development. Again open development. The moment you open development, by default it will be 100. By default, what client number will come?
100.
100 will come by default. If your intention is to test something, you have to come to client number, change from 100 to 200, put your user ID, password, login, test whatever you want to test. Whether you want to create master record, create it. If you want to post a transaction, post it. If you want to generate any report, generate. But in development 200. Clear?
Sir, in 100, like what are the we posted, that one we can transfer to 200, no, with SSC1 T code.
That is configuration. Not master, not a transaction. It is configuration that is created in development 100 is copied to development 200 by SCC1. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Okay, this is the first point that you'll have to remember. So keep only development in your mind at the beginning. Later on, I will tell you when you have to think about quality, when you have to think about production. If you think about 3 at the beginning, you will get confused. First thing that should be there on your mind is only development. Okay, because initially you have to configure the system. To do the configuration, keep only development in your mind. Once we do certain configurations, then we will talk about quality, then we will talk about production. But make sure you will have minimum 3 like this on your SAP logon pad. Clear? Now,
Sir, can we tell like for development, this like golden client and sandbox client? Okay, if anyone asks or interview, can we able to use
yeah,
that word?
you can use it. Golden client is always 100. Everywhere
Yeah.
golden client means 100. Sandbox means a testing server in some cases. Sandbox means configuration server in the other cases. It is used in two different ways. Some call it as your sandbox as the client which is used for your experiment purpose. You want to test a functionality, but you're not sure with the configuration how it will impact. For such things, you are not going to do the config on the development 100. Instead, you will configure it in sandbox. Once you configure in sandbox, if everything is working fine according to your expectation, the same configuration you will do it in the golden client or development 100.
So
Okay.
we can't move TR from the sandbox to golden client, right, sir? Then if
No, we
that
will not move.
testing is successful, then again we need to do that in golden.
Correct. Because in the sandbox, you will be experimenting, you will be changing configuration left and right until it works according to your requirement. There may be a lot of additions, deletions, modifications in the configuration. That is why it is not recommended and we don't use it. Okay.
So is the number
Now
fixed in every project or it can be different?
it varies, but development 100 is fixed. This 110, 200 may vary. But you keep 100, 110, 200 in your mind. Let anybody ask, tell that this is what the numbers that are there in your project. Nobody will
But
put any cross question to you.
in my project
And
is
if we
different.
have a sandbox system, sandbox client in development server, then we are going to have 4 clients.
That sandbox is not part of development. That's a different altogether. And that will
But
have
in
a
my
different number.
It
yeah,
will
I
be
have a
Yeah.
mentioned in
different.
development server, right?
No, no, no. Sandbox is not development. That's what I told just now.
Okay.
I have this golden client as 300 and the sandbox is in 400 in
Yes,
real-time project.
correct. So it will have a different number. These numbers are created by basis consultants. So these are the most commonly used numbers that you can tell to anybody who is asking you.
The sandbox system in which server it will be created?
It's a different altogether. It is nowhere connected to your development quality production. It's like a test server wherein you can do any kind of experiments.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, this is your first point. You must have your logon pad with 3 lines. Second thing, do not configure anything in SAP without having a valid scenario or requirement. This is another mistake a lot of us will do. You have to avoid it from the beginning itself. If you want to create something, don't create just like that the way you want to create. If you want to create like that, go to the system, open that particular screen, create, but don't use it. Let's say I want to practice how a company code is created. Sorry, this is 800. I want to know how a company code is created. I know OX02 is the T code. Come here, add a new entry. Now I do not have any company code in my mind. I have no clue what I have to create, but I want to practice. Fine, you practice it, you put whatever you want. Let's say I want to create AB 90, something like testing. Okay, I am free to do whatever I want, but the point is, do not use this company code for the further settings. Clear? Because you had no idea why you are creating AB90. Just like that, whatever came in your mind, you add it. Don't continue this company code for your further practice. This is only an experimental company code. Am I clear? Right, you are only experimenting how to use this screen. You are free to
Yes, sir.
experiment the way you want, but do not consider this for your continuous practice. Create 1-2 company codes. After that, have a valid scenario, valid requirement. When I say valid scenario, valid requirement, if you wanted to create a company code, now you want to know first, I want to practice how to create a company code in SAP. Fine, create 1 or 2 company codes, come out of the screen. While creating 1 or 2 company codes, you must have understood what fields are there, what fields we must input to create a company code. Considering these fields, open one Excel sheet, write a company name, which company you want to configure. Just like that, whatever comes in your mind, don't create it. Okay, if you are creating a company or company code, assume that you are aware of their business process at least 10%. What is that company? Where is that company? What kind of business this company is doing? What are the products of this company? If you are not aware of this basic information, do not create that company code. Without knowing this basic information, if you are creating a company code, you will end up understanding nothing from SAP FICO. You will end up creating all the settings, but no setting is clear to you. If I open your company code, if I ask you, can you tell me why you created this company code? What is the business process of this company code? What products you have created? How you are extracting financials for this? You may not have answer because you did not think all these points while creating company code. Am I correct? Correct? Huh? Just like that, whenever we are doing one particular topic, you are creating that settings. But you are not connecting this topic with the previous topic. You are not connecting this topic with the upcoming topic. If we are practicing like that, it's all bits and pieces. And you will never understand how to joint all these points. Okay, and you have to understand at high level in interview. Most of the interviews at the managerial round, when I say at the managerial round, at the final round, you may be questioned by giving a simple scenario. They might tell that if Airtel wants to implement SAP, Airtel India, Bharti Airtel, if they want to implement SAP, they are operating in multiple countries, they are using this accounting principle, that accounting principle. How do you suggest the organization structure from FICO point of view? Do you have an answer? This is how you will get the questions in your interview. They will literally give you a company, or they will ask you to take an example and then explain me how the organization structure you are going to propose as a FICO consultant. There, if you tell that I will tell you the configuration, I will tell you the T code path, nothing doing. Upfront, the other person will come to know that you do not have practical knowledge. Whatever you are explaining, you may be wrong, but try to explain in a proper logical way which is used in a real environment. Start from client, operating concern, controlling area, company code, chart of account, profit center, fiscal year, all these points. And all these points for your company that you are going to practice must be listed on your Excel sheet in the beginning itself. Tomorrow, whenever you are creating this particular topic, you have to use the same things that you have decided at the beginning. do not change your configuration on the spot. Okay, and you have to keep financial reports in your mind, how you are going to generate the reports. Your entire FICO is based on reporting. If you are not clear on the reporting structure, at what level, on what basis you want to generate, see the financials, it is of no use that you are configuring FICO system. FICO is end of the day financials. It's all about reporting. Am I correct? Yes, no?
Yes, sir.
If I'm not clear on what kind of reports I want to generate, what is the point of configuring my system? What is the point of creating my master records? What is the point of creating the transactions? Where am I testing the reports? On what basis I am analyzing the reports that my reports are coming fine, my configuration is done in the right way. If your reports are going wrong, why your reports are going wrong? What configuration mistakes we have done? Did we think about our organization structure before? Is our organization structure in line with the business process that we are dealing with? These points may sound a little tricky, these points may sound a little confusing at the beginning, but this is what you have to deal with every day when you are in a project. Start your learning with a little complicated things so that going forward everything will get simplified. If you start from the easy things, simple things, going forward everything is complicated. No surprise, you will give up SAP. No surprise, you will tell, no, SAP is not for me. I am not suitable for SAP. I practiced a lot, but I do not know why I am not able to clear interview. I do not know why I am not able to explain to the other person. Because we do not have clarity for ourselves first. If you are not convinced, if you are not clear with what you are doing on your system, you will never be able to explain to the other person. Tomorrow on your interview, you have to explain everything. Am I correct? How do you clear your interview? By talking or by doing configuration?
By talking.
Right? You will have to clear your interview by talking. If you have to talk, you have to talk correct things. Right? If you
Yes, sir.
talk only the configurations, if you talk only the T codes, only the IMG path, only whatever the standard, this one, step two, step three, do we get selected? Do we get selected if you talk about the configuration steps?
No, sir.
Only the sequence that has to be followed? No.
No,
Upfront, no, you will not
sir,
get
will not.
selected.
Sir.
When we know that if we talk like this, we will not get selected, we are not supposed to practice like that from the beginning. Forget about if your configuration is giving you the right result or not. That will give you the correct result after a thorough practice, after having the clear requirement, clear scenario. So this may take a little time, but at least you put an effort from the beginning. Let's say if I tell you that you have to create a company code. Now, what makes you decide whether you need to create one company code or five company codes? On what basis are you going to decide that you are going to create one or multiple company codes? What will you tell? Can I create as many company codes as I want? Just like that? Can we create
No,
as many company codes as we want? No. Then on what basis you are going to
no, no.
decide that you need to create one company code or you need to create five or three company codes? How are we deciding that these many company codes are needed?
Based on the operation.
Based on the operation or based on the registration?
based on the registration.
Registration also, sir. Based on that business, like
Based on the
Based on the
only
registration.
different,
registration.
different.
Only registration, nothing else. If I have registered only one name
Okay.
legally in India, I have to create only one company code, which is called as legal entity. What do we call
Correct.
company code?
Legal entity.
Legal entity. But we open in other countries, some other countries, we will not use same company code.
If you operate in other country, you will have to register in the other country. So there is another legal entity.
Yes, sir.
If I wanted to do business in India, can I do a business in India without registering my company name? Like a
No, sir.
grocery shop,
No, sir,
like a
we can't
general
do.
store. Can I call a painter, put Ajay Kirana General Store or Ajay Printing Press? No, right? I have to
Compact
obtain,
license.
No, sir, no.
I have to register, I
We
have to obtain the GST number. There is a big procedure, legal procedure.
Correct, sir.
I have to get different permissions,
Yes, sir, we
approvals
have
from
to pay
municipality,
taxes.
different things will be there. Now, based on that, whatever the name that I register, I will be doing business with the same name across India. If you take Airtel, Airtel is there in India everywhere. Let's say Airtel is there in Hyderabad, Airtel is there in Bangalore, Mumbai, Pune, Chennai. Is the name changed when your city is changed, when your state is changed?
No, sir.
No, right?
Sir, I have one
Airtel,
question.
yes.
Sir, in my current organization, for Canada is one entity and UK one entity, India one entity, but Mexico there are four company got separate. It is possible
If
to.
you, what you do, go to SA16 and
I will check.
okay,
I have authorization or not in this the
go
code.
to go to this. If you do not have authorization, go to any of the transaction screen or any reporting screen, open the drop down at the company code. Okay, if you
I will
find
check,
four
sir.
company codes for Mexico, look at
Ah,
this. These four will have four different registered names.
yes. The name is some difference.
If there is a change in the name, you have to register that name.
Okay, sir.
Without registering, you cannot do a business. That is not called as a legal entity. That is illegal. You will not be
Correct.
given any permission. You cannot do any business transaction because anything that you do, you will have to give a legal certificate, legal document. If you're selling something, you have to give a bill, invoice.
Correct, sir.
If you're opening a bank account, bank will not allow you to open a savings account. You have to open a current account.
Correct, sir.
For you to open a current account will be opened on the name of your organization. For that, you need to submit your registration certificate as a proof.
Correct, sir.
Now, all these are connected to your legal entity again. Your legal entity is nothing but a registered name. For every registered name, there will be a company code created. And tomorrow, if
Correct.
somebody is asking you, how do you decide or on what basis do we create a company code in SAP? Some people will tell, we go to OX02 and then create. No, I'm serious.
Correct, sir.
Right? If you're not using the terminology called legal entity, legally registered entity in the organization, in a country, then you will not be able to convince the other person.
Correct.
Right? So you need to have clear scenario, and whatever comes in your mind, do not experiment on the system. Get it validated. Think twice before you experiment on the system, because if you go in your own way, you may be experimenting a wrong scenario which may not be used in any real environment. But for us to test, you can test in any way, but make sure you are testing the correct valid scenarios. Clear? Most of the times we will try to explore the system, experiment with the system. If I configure like this, what will happen? Correct? Your approach is correct, but make sure the scenario that you are assuming, scenario that you are planning is also correct. Otherwise, we will end up getting unwanted confusions which will not allow us to talk confidently. Okay, which means in short, right from the company code creation onwards, do not create anything on the system if you are not clear. In other words, I am not supposed to go to SAP, log into SAP, open a transaction code, create whatever I want. That is your mistake. Second thing, when you are posting a transaction, do not post on whatever the date that you want, whatever the amount that comes in your mind. Most of us will post with no idea. Let's say I want to post an entry, I'll take any date, I'll take any currency, I'll not put anything in reference, I'll not put anything in header text. If you know the concept, if you know what needs to be put there, it is fine. But if you are not clear, if you are not confident, don't ignore them. Put something in the reference, something in the header text, posting key, let's say some account I am giving. Okay, so which amount are you giving? Most of the times we will be giving whatever the amount comes in our mind, like this. Am I correct? Some fancy numbers, or you give a space, whatever comes, you post the same amount. Yes, no? Anybody
Yes,
practiced like
sir.
this?
Yes, sir. We will do like that.
Now,
I will.
is our intention to become an end user or to become a consultant? This kind of a practice is done by the people who wants to become an SAP end user. If your intention is to become an end user, practice the way you want to practice, because tomorrow you have to create 100 transactions a day, 200 transactions a day. It's a task based work, correct? End user work is
Yes, sir.
task based. If you're working in AP, AR, or any other department, you will have a target. This many entries you have to pass, or these many things you have to achieve. If your intention is that, practice like this. Whatever comes in your mind, whatever comes in the space bar, you do it. If it is not your intention, if your intention is to become a consultant, stop practicing like this. You will never develop a consulting mindset if you're practicing like this. If you're practicing like this, even if you post 100 entries, even if you create 100 company codes, that will not give you confidence. That will only give you what is there on the screen. You will close your eyes and then tell, if you go to F-02, fourth field is this one, 12th field is this one, on the next screen, third field is profit center, like this you will tell. But why you are doing this, what is the impact of it, you will never be able to tell. Because the approach that you have taken is different. The things that you'll have to perform when you're in a project is different. These two are different. You are going in a wrong direction. But for everything you are investing your time, correct? To practice anything. It's not that you are
Yes, sir.
practicing for the time pass. Am I correct? Anybody is doing practice for time pass, you are getting bored?
No, sir.
No, right? So take your time. There is no hurry for you to create a document. There is no hurry for you to create 10 documents. Practice 10 times. Nobody is giving you homework. Write A on the top. Fill up 10 columns A. Don't do it. If you understand why you are posting, even if you post 2 entries, that is fine. More than enough. But make sure the configuration that you are doing, entries that you are posting, reports you are creating, reports you are checking and then understanding, if you are able to explain to the other person in a confident, convincing way, you will get selected anywhere you go. If you are not able to explain in a confident, convincing way, something is wrong. It's high time that you have to change the way you are looking at the system, the way you are understanding the system. Okay, so amount you are not supposed to put left and right. If I put, let's say, this amount, if I put like this for 10 transactions, if I want to check my reports are working fine or not, I will open the report, I will get the output. But how do I know that the amount system is showing is correct or not? Do I have any idea when I'm posting the transaction? No, right? I posted while posting whatever came into my mind. Agree? I have taken current account on the debit side or some other account on the credit side. But am I simulating the entry and then checking? How many of you simulate entry before posting? After debit, credit, control S. Most of us will do control S after giving debit, credit amount. Agree? Or we will simulate and then check, simulate general ledger and then check. How do you post? How did you practice? If I debit
Simulate
and
and
if I
post.
credit the same account, if I do a control-S directly, document will get posted, but that is wrong. You have to simulate first, understand what data is coming on the simulation, how you will use various options. Now let's say I have simulated, now I want to change the amount. Am I able to edit the amount?
Yes, sir. If it is simulation, we can change.
I am on the simulation, I double click on this, amount is grayed out. I'm not able to edit amount. Should I
Come back,
cancel
sir.
and then,
We have to come back.
okay. I have come back. Now to edit this, let's say I double click on any line. This is not editable. Now you will find an option called reset.
Yes, sir.
If I click on
In
reset,
normally FB60, if you'll come back, we can edit.
here also I am able to edit now.
Yes, sir. In F-Router, I think we are unable to
It is
edit
not
this.
like that. Everywhere it is the same.
Yeah, it came now.
Now it is again grayed out.
Okay,
Check.
okay. Yes, sir. Yes.
Right. So we have to understand these kind of points. Okay. If you are posting 2-3 entries and if you are able to understand these small points, that is fine. You don't have to post again and again. Once you get to know the points, if you are posting the second time, now you have to understand why you are posting the transaction. What is your intention behind posting this entry? Are you posting to practice data entry or are you posting to test a scenario? If your intention is to test a scenario, you don't focus on this data entry. Okay, to test a scenario, you will have a clarity what you are going to test, what is your scenario. For that scenario to replicate, you need a transaction. For that, don't post again and again debit, credit, posting key and all. You're not an end user. Use this option called post with reference. Okay, you would have already posted 1 or 2 entries. Copy from that entry, make one more entry, make whatever the changes that you want. Instead of spending 1 minute for a document, you will create within 20 seconds. So all these are possible once you have a valid scenario in your mind. Otherwise, we will spend time, we will sit, but we will do things in a way which is not going to help us practically. Okay, let's say I post a document. Now, once a document is posted, I have to display. How am I displaying the document? To display a document, on what basis system is identifying a document? You will have document number, you will have company code, you will have fiscal year. So these three are key combination of any document. And if somebody is asking you on what basis system is going to identify a transaction or identify a document in SAP. On what basis system is going to identify a transaction? On what combination?
Document number, company code, fiscal year.
Document number, company code, fiscal year. If you go to
Company
document
code,
list,
fiscal year.
if I pull the list, if I double click on any document, okay, if I go to header, there is something called reference key. Okay, what is the document number? This is your document number. Where is it? Here it is. 101, all zeros. Correct? Now here is your document. Yes, no?
Yes, sir. This is the document.
And then in which company code it is posted? AJ10. And after this document number, do you find AJ10?
Yes, sir.
And in which fiscal year it is posted? It is posted in fiscal year 2022. After your company code, do you find fiscal year 2022? Now your document is identified in SAP with this three combination in the same format. You cannot shuffle it. Company code, fiscal year, document number, fiscal year, company code. You cannot change this order. This is fixed order. That is why to display any document, you will have to give the same order. Correct? Is this the same
So what
number?
is the use of reference field?
Which one?
Reference field.
This one?
Open this document. Go to the header. Which one you open just before 20 minutes?
Yes. You mean reference key?
No, no. On top of that, there was a field reference one.
Here it is. The
Yeah,
same field is
yes.
here.
In the fifth line, there is a field called reference. Only reference, not reference key.
Yeah, it is this one, this reference. This is a transaction narration. Okay, now I posted this document. I am looking at this document. Do I have anything on the reference or header text? Nothing, right?
Mm,
Now, if I look at this transaction, do I understand anything why this entry was posted?
no.
No, right? So the background of a transaction, the reason for any financial transaction must be given on the reference column, so that when you pull out the report, you will understand why this entry was
Okay,
posted. To understand
okay
in a
then
simple way,
what is the use of text field then?
text field is valid for each line item. Reference field is valid for the overall transaction.
Okay.
Okay.
Is it available in FB50 or F-02 while posting the document? I have
Yes.
never seen this, I guess.
No, no, no. On any screen that you post, the field availability is the same. It may be there in the different position, but the fields are same.
Okay.
Reference is nothing but narration.
Yeah. Let's say I am posting rent entry. Every month I am going to post rent. Correct? So in the
Yes, sir.
reference, what I am going to do, I am going to update rent for, let's say, head office March 23. The next entry next month when I post rent for head office April 23, likewise. Or if I get any rent invoice, if my landlord or if the owner is giving you the rental invoice, that rental invoice number I may put in the reference column. Something which will help me identify what a transaction it is. So I don't have to go in detail into the transaction to check what it is. If I just look at the reference, I have to get an idea what this entry is posted for. Clear?
So we have one more field called payment reference. Is it same like the reference?
Payment reference is used exclusively for payment transactions.
Okay. So the use
Okay,
is same, right?
if you are making any partial payments, okay, at that stage your payment reference or your invoice reference fields are going to help you. Every
And
field will have a functionality, and every functionality is based on a valid scenario, valid requirement. If we have valid scenarios, if we have valid requirements while practicing, everything you will understand in 1-2 goes. If you post 1-2 invoices, if you post 1-2 transactions, you will understand the overall picture of it, so that you will not have any confusions. You will be able to talk, explain confidently to the other person. Otherwise, what will happen? We will end up getting confused for a lot of things. Okay. Now, second point that we talked about is you should have valid requirement, valid scenario before doing anything on SAP. Just like that, do not create anything on your system, especially for your company code. Do you want to create a different company code for everything, or you want to have one company code in which you want to see the overall FICO process like it happens in a real environment? What is your expectation? What do you want to do?
One company code with all the
Only one
configurations.
company code.
Right? You want to see all the functionalities working in one company code. For that, you have to have your company code very clearly. You have to maintain your company code so sincerely. Don't left and right post entries or left and right experiment in your company code. If you want to experiment, you can experiment, but not on your regular practice company code. Create 1 or 2 company codes, use them exclusively for your experiment purpose. That is fine, that is allowed. But on your experimental company codes, do not expect that you will be able to replicate business processes, business scenarios. May not be possible. And you may have to convince yourself stating this is practice server, things will not work in this. Correct? You would have heard these kind of statements. In test server things will not work, but in real server things will work. Anybody heard this? If
Yes,
you
sir.
do valid requirement, if you have valid scenario, if you do the right configuration, everything will work properly in your test server also. Right?
So if
It
you
is all
maintain
depend.
same T code till we complete this project, will it be will that data will be available in the IDS system, sir?
Yeah, it will be there for next 3-6 months. They'll not disturb it unless there is any problem. They'll not do it. But if you practice everything properly, it will not take more than a day or more than 2 days to bring back all your configurations, because you have done everything with a clarity. You know what you have done so far. That is what I mean. We have to configure everything with a valid scenario, with a valid requirement. Even if your server has crashed tomorrow or all the data has been vanished, it's easy for you to bring back all your company code configuration within couple of hours or maybe 1 or 2 days, depending on till what stage you have configured. If not, let's say we have configured 3-4 company codes, but we have no clue what we have configured, what things we have experimented, what things we have learnt in it. then it is difficult for us to bring back the same level where our company code was at the time of data lost. Am I correct? Most of the scenarios is like this only. We will not have clarity on what configurations we have done, on what scenarios we have experimented or practiced. That is why most of us will feel bad that okay, all my data is gone. Don't think bad. You got another opportunity to practice all these things once again. Hardly few hours effort. Will it take 24 hours to bring back all your data? No, right? Hardly couple of hours. Am I correct? If you sit 3-4 hours, you will bring back all your configurations again. Because you know all these configurations, you're not going to test everything in detail the way you tested before. Okay. Now, next point, always take a scenario with accounting numbers and entries. Okay, always take scenario with accounting numbers and entries. When I say this, let's say I want to practice some expense entry. I assume that I will be posting rent entry. I'll be posting rent entry. Now, if I want to post rent entry multiple times, let's say I want to post rent entry 5 times. How many times I want to post rent entry? 5 times. Fine, I can create rent 5 times, but when you're creating rent 5 times, don't create the same rent 5 times. So what I will do while posting rent, let's say I'll post November 1 rent, December 1 rent, Jan, Feb, and then March. Or I'll start from December, I'll end in the month of April. Every month I'll pay 20,000 rent, 20,000 INR. I am paying 20,000 INR rent every month. Now, how this is going to affect my financials? Now check your reports. If I run the report in my IFRS, if I run the report in my Indian Companies Act, if I run the report in the IFRS on April, what should be the value that I have to get? If I run rent in IFRS accounting principle April month, if I posted these entries, what should be my rent amount?
20,000.
IFRS April month, if I run the rent report.
1 lakh.
IFRS April month rent amount.
No, it is to be in USD.
No, in local currency only, INR only.
It is 80,000
It is 80,000. Why 80,000?
because
Jan
as per IFRS it is Jan to December, so we have to consider from Jan.
Right. Now, when I'm talking about rent, what is rent? Expense or balance sheet? P&L account or balance sheet account?
P&L
P&L account.
Expense. Expense, which means it's a P&L. So your counting should always start from year beginning. According to IFRS, your year begins on Jan. You are supposed to see rent of only 80,000 when you run the report. Now, which report you are seeing to see 80,000 matters. And whether you are able to identify, whether you are able to think that your rent should show only 80,000, your practice is correct, your understanding is correct. If not, there is something wrong. Agree with me?
Yeah.
If not, the way we are looking at the system is wrong. We are not even looking at from an end user point of view. If you ask this question to an end user, he will tell 80,000. Am I correct? Any basic accounting graduate? Yes, no? But if we represent ourselves as a consultant, we must be able to tell it has to show 80,000, and you should also tell it has to be 80,000, and to see 80,000, which report you have to refer and how you have to pull the report. It's not that you go to a particular standard report, put the GL account, company code, execute, whatever the amount comes, this is your balance. Then you're wrong. So how to extract the report is very important thing. Now, if I see according to Indian Companies Act in the same month, April, how much should be my rent?
20,000.
20,000.
It's only 20,000. But how many entries I posted for rent for my practice?
5 entries.
What is the sum of entries that I posted?
1 lakh.
If I posted rent for 1 lakh, but when I pull the report, none of my report is giving me 1 lakh. One report I have to get 80,000, on the other report I have to get 20,000. Is this logical? What we have on the screen, is this correct or wrong?
Yes, sir.
Agree with me? Is this a valid scenario? Or
Yeah,
invalid?
valid.
Right? Like this, you need to take some different scenarios. Valid scenarios you have to take. And then you have to understand how to get these numbers and how to understand this from the system. That understanding is what you have to learn, not the data that you are posting, not the data that you are extracting. It's easy for me to post left and right whatever the way I want. It's easy for me to pull the data if I know the T code. I'll give some input parameter, I'll click on execute icon, something will be populated on the output screen. But am I able to validate that output which is coming from the system? Am I able to understand it? Tomorrow you have to understand and you have to make your client understand. Is this correct? You are understanding the report is 50%. You are making your client, your user understanding is another 50%. If you are able to understand, you are only
Sir, you are not audible, I think.
sorry. Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. The first 50% is when we are able to understand. Okay, if you are able to understand, you learned 50%, and the remaining 50% when we are able to explain, convince the user or client, only then you will be 100%. Now decide, if you are only struggling to understand, then you are not even 50%. Am I correct? If we are finding difficulties to understand the process ourselves, we are not even 50%. This is your first target. First, you have a clarity what you're doing. Then make sure that you are able to explain your understanding and you are able to convince the other person. Then you'll achieve another 50%. Only then you will be able to give your 100% effort. If you put your 100% effort, you will not get 100% result, but you will get reasonable result with which you can survive anywhere. Right? You have to be very practical right from the beginning. Okay, you have to be very practical right from the beginning. If you are not understanding something, let me know that you are not able to understand. I will explain you one more time. Okay, if I am not able to explain you with a valid example, we will take somebody's help within our group if somebody is able to explain it better. So it has to be the mutual learning, mutual knowledge sharing. Whatever I know, I will be explaining to you. But there may be points which I am also not aware of, but you may be aware of. When you're experimenting, you may come across different errors. You may come across different new scenarios. I may also be learning from you different things. No rule that I should also be knowing everything, right? But I may be able to convince you with my answer. Sometimes I may go wrong, I may be wrong, I may give you incorrect answer. But don't blindly believe what I am telling. Try to validate whatever I am telling. Is this correct or not? Sometimes if I tell something wrong, just point out that this is wrong. Clear? The end of the day, after our discussions, after our sessions, after our experiments, scenarios, validations, whatsoever, the end result should be the valid outcome. If you talk outside to somebody else, nobody should tell that whatever you're talking is wrong. This is not what we do in a project. If you come across such a scenario, will you feel comfortable? Will you feel happy? Yes, no? Will you be happy if somebody says that whatever you're telling is wrong, not correct, not convincing enough?
No, sir.
Definitely no, right? Anybody is okay with that?
No, sir, no one.
No.
Right? So for that to happen, for that not to happen, you have to ensure that you will put right efforts from the beginning. And check whatever you are learning from the beginning with the different people who are working on SAP. Okay, I'm telling you right from the beginning, please verify what I'm telling to you, what I'm explaining to you with people who are learning, with people who are working on SAP. Only then you will gain confidence that yes, I am learning right content. Don't blindly follow what I am telling. Please validate only if you find yes, this is correct, yes, accept to it. If you find anywhere there is any gap, there is something that we discussed is wrong, there is some thing that we will be able to add, let's fine tune it. So that is how you will be able to share the knowledge. That is how we will be able to gather the knowledge. Clear?
Yeah.
So all right then. So what we will do from tomorrow morning 7:30 onwards, let's start our actual sessions. Okay, so we will begin from the basics and we'll try to understand the way you have to think from SAP point of view before you start any configuration. What points you'll have to configure, what points you have to consider, what requirements you will take, and how do you bring them into SAP. So these points we will start understanding in detail from tomorrow morning onwards. So tomorrow we will be connecting at 7:30 a.m. in the morning. Okay.
So from tomorrow we are going to start